Richard's request, and to state on it. Oh, we're not recording yet. Sorry. So Richard's request, he's asked that we move our new item, the railroad crossing issue for Stewart Road, up to item B to save on attorney's costs.
We're ready. I'm sorry.
I don't do a soft shoe, but I'll scramble here anyway. The item that I've been asked to speak about is related to the final segment of the Stewart Road project. And we were hopeful that we would have had this on tonight's agenda, but there were a couple of issues that couldn't be resolved or reconciled in the transition of legal services. And so we couldn't get those reconciled in time for the railroad crossing to have that on tonight's meeting. So we need to bring it forward, and the reason for that is there's a timeliness element involved. We're trying to negotiate with Union Pacific Railroad, and they have a tentative meeting set up with us for June 18th. But they need us to commit to some preliminary engineering that we've been negotiating, and that's the item that would come before you next week. And to do that, it's really hard to schedule time frame with the railroads. It can be a 30-day, a 60, a 90. We could miss a window. And what we're trying to accomplish is to get engineering data that we can use to plug into the interlocal agreement and that we're working on with Sumner, and in order to set ourselves up so we can be very competitive for the next grant cycles that are coming through. I don't have time tonight to go through all the timelines involved, but it is a very tight timeline, and we need council's consideration to bring this forward to keep on track and keep this project moving forward. It is a big project. $20 million plus. Pacific's component is much smaller than Sumner's, but there's a lot of moving pieces. The one item that we're talking about is just a small part, but it is integral that we keep on track with the timeline. So, questions from council?
So is council, a couple things. I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that we'll try to be seeing this on our next agenda without it coming to workshop. And then one thing I did not explain that I thought maybe I should, Jim Kelly, I'm not even sure if I introduced Jim Kelly to council. He works with Carol. He's Carol's assistant that is here representing Carol as well. So instead of taking the time to introduce you and explain to council that you're here representing Carol. So they work together.
I don't know if you said it, and Leanne's distracting me. No. It's not that I wasn't paying attention, right, but that's being distracted. Is there a financial tag to this piece that you're bringing forward?
Yes, there will be, and it will be an ask to have Union Pacific Railroad do a pre-engineering, preliminary engineering effort for the piece that crosses the railroad tracks. That is something that the railroads do. They do the engineering work for their components in any of the corridors. So this is the piece that would allow them to do that. The ask is about $24,000 to do this preliminary engineering effort. The benefit of getting this information is then we get the cost estimates of what it will cost for the project across the railroad tracks. That information can be plugged into the rest of the preliminary and go to the 30% design, 60 and 90%. We're hopeful that as we go forward, the engineering costs, some of those costs will be offset by federal grant money or state transportation improvement board money. But we really need solid information in order to get ourselves in a competitive place where we are competitive for this funding. One last point on that, and I recognize this is a lot of information to absorb. This is a big project, and normally the city, we're competing for county, we're competing in a county-wide pool with Pierce County or King County. But within that, there's also additional opportunities to compete regionally. And it's a different funding mechanism, the way the federal funds are distributed throughout the 4-region county. So with a $20 million price tag, we hope that we can get all the pieces pulled together where we'll be very competitive in the regional pool, where there's larger sums that are available to tap into. So that's kind of the overarching goal and some of the strategies that we're looking to try to fund this project.
And was the $24,000 you're looking for budgeted for this year, and if not, what?
I can find some money, but it will be at council's discretion whether to fund it or not. I can answer tonight that there is some operational funding that we could shift that's in the street fund to pay for this.
Well, so I can speak to that, if I may, that we didn't budget it, but the budget is more than balanced with the utilities and with other parts, so it wouldn't be coming from the general fund. It would be coming probably from, I would think, the street capital fund, and there are funds there available. But it would take a budget, probably part of the budget amendment to allow that. Council would have to direct that to do that.
I'll work with Richard so we've got that clearly identified next Monday night.
Other questions from council?
I guess my question is, the project of the scope of the railroad tracks didn't just appear. Why wasn't it part of the original plan?
Part of the plan that we've been looking at, this was, if you recall last year, the TIB grant had this in component considered. But that grant, we weren't competitive for that. The reason for that is they were looking, Steve Garchester, the executive director of the Transportation Improvement Board, our staff, Jim Morgan, the city engineer at Sumner, met with the board. And the reason we learned we weren't competitive is because they didn't feel that Pacific had enough financial horsepower on their own to do the work, or if they did the work, you could end up with a bridge to nowhere. So what the granting agencies are looking at, that we need to partner with the other entities, Sumner in this case primarily, but also Auburn, it will be a financial contributor, as well as there's a private developer that will be contributing some funds as well. The short answer to your question, Councilmember Cave, is it was identified within that grant funding, but we didn't get it. So now we're having to make the adjustment to try to keep the project and the momentum moving forward.
Councilmember Steiger?
Probably just add to Vic Cave's question here a little bit. I've been fighting this Stewart Road for years. As a matter of fact, I even had hair when it started. And for some unknown reason, people don't understand that a road is not complete until it's from point A to point B. But no, they got approved little sections here, and then they got sections that go nowhere, and whatever. Believe me, it's been a total nightmare, and it's still, I'm sure, we're going to run into problems with the track things, both interlink with the bridge, and if the bridge is going to be submerged, the track thing is going to be submerged in Pacific, the Church County is going to be involved. Yeah, we're not done. So.
And council, I will provide a little more detail if you'd like, or if there's any questions in the week that you'd like answered, please let me know. I'll be happy to respond on Monday night.
Other questions from council? Without objection, we'll put it on the agenda next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So up next is item B, authorizing the mayor sign letter of agreement with Teamsters Local 117 for summer youth lunch worker.
Good evening, Mayor Geyer and City Council members. I would like to get your authorization for Resolution 2015-253 for the summer youth lunch worker position. That just does not roll off your tongue. This is a part-time summer youth lunch worker is needed to assist with serving lunch at the summer program. The position will be no more than 20 hours a week and shall last no more longer than 2 months. The position will be active from June 22nd, 2015 to August 21st, 2015, with a salary of $12 per hour. The staff recommends that City Council approves Resolution 2015-253.
Questions from council? Councilor Jones.
This is a per hour non-benefit.
Correct.
Other questions? Councilor Gay?
Has this been a position that's been funded in the past?
Yes.
Other questions? Okay, without objection, we'll move forward.
Thank you.
Next, resolution 2015-254, waiver of fees for use of a city park by Terry Home for the Terry Home Park Show.
Good evening, council. Again, I think the intro really satisfies the motion here. This is a process that the city has entertained before with Terry Home. Park fees were waived last year because of 501c3. And again, this is Terry Home would like to request that the council consider waiving the fees for this year's event in the city park.
Questions from council? Councilmember Steiger.
Is there a reason why we cannot just give them a continuous waiver so they know what to budget their expenses, they know they're gonna have to park, they know they're not gonna have any expense, rather than bringing it forward every year?
That's a good question.
I think we just currently have a council policy that says that we have to approve it every year.
Yeah.
We could change our own policy and stop doing that.
Probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of standard. We've done this every year, both for the church group that does the backpacks for kids. We do it for Terry Home.
Civic days.
Yeah.
My question is, do we make any 501c3 nonprofit pay park fees?
Well, they typically come to us and request them waived, and we do. I don't know that there's none that I can think of that we've denied, but I think having a standing policy that says any 501c3 that wants to use the park is no charge, kind of.
I don't
think we can do all 501c3. There's a criteria, otherwise it becomes a public gift.
And there's also, what sort of event it is, that, if somebody, 501c3 wants to have their company picnic there for just their company, you know, that's just a private group running the park, as opposed to this is, you know, a community event.
We could refer that to the governance committee.
I think there's just laws that we have to abide by, so I think it's good that we just keep it in check and bring it forward to council and make sure that we're adhering to RTW's appropriation of funds properly.
Well, and also make sure that the event space is available on a certain date if they're requesting it.
So I might suggest to the administration for next year, having been unanimously approved at least a dozen years in a row, perhaps we could just put it on the consent agenda next time.
It's only been 2 years.
If we have criteria, and this is the type of nonprofit that meets that criteria, can't we turn a decision like this over to staff?
I don't know if the staff can waive fees that are in the fee schedule, right?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I can't answer that. Richard, do you know offhand?
Yeah, we can.
So, okay. So is this something, first off, is this something that we want to move to, not this issue, but the issue of waiving fees, kind of overarching and coming up with a policy and refer to governance committee? Councilor Steiger?
Let's just move it forward, forget what I said. Have everybody on the council.
We can put it up
for a ballot this year.
Just putting on the consent agenda will make it quicker next week, though.
Yeah, this is something we can put on the agenda, I think, without objection. You don't count. I appreciate your concern. Okay. Without objection, we'll put this on the consent agenda next week. Up next, Resolution 2015-257, authorizing application for King County Flood District Flood Reduction Fund for financial assistance to give Specs Clean and repair storm drainage. Wow,
I know, that doesn't roll off the tongue too well, does it? As you probably heard me a couple weeks ago say that the grant application that we had envisioned initially was to open and close the park, and as had been done the last couple of years with the HESCOs. But as I learned that the King County Flood Control District already provides for that service. So we had an opportunity to look at a different level of service and what would be valuable for us to apply for and what could benefit the city and still meet the criteria for the grant application. So the area video inspection will just help prevent some of the localized flooding just north of the park along 3rd Avenue. And we think this is a good judicious use of funding. We hope we will qualify for this, but this will be the mechanism to let us find out. So staff will recommend that council approve this resolution and move it forward for conversation next Monday night.
questions from the council? Councilman McKay.
Not a question, I had comments on the actual application itself. I noticed there were some sentence fragments that ended up making it seem a little hard to follow. And my recommendation was that we proofread and go through and make corrections before the final document is sent forward to the county. I'd hate to see something technical have this kicked back to us.
Absolutely. If you have an area that you caught your attention and you share with me, I'd be happy to make any of those corrections, but appreciate it.
I remember when I reviewed it, that I tried to go through now and find them. I didn't highlight them at the time. I was going through and saw it, and so all I'll do is I'll go through it and highlight them when I didn't see them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions from you? Council Wood? Move forward.